These are some of the most brutally difficult RPGs from this year that are actually really good video games, not just artificially hard and without any of the fun. I'm Alex, and I played some pretty great number-crunching, gear-obsessing, sweaty palm-inducing RPGs this past year, and I'm sure some of you out there might just be up for a few of these challenging suggestions. Good luck. First up, Undernauts Labyrinth of Yomi, a brooding dungeon crawler that takes the best elements of the genre, trims out the junk, and polishes it all into a refined but demanding RPG. The game is surprisingly adult, not in the lame waifus flying everywhere kind of way, unless you're into whatever this thing is, but it's all skewed more to being actually adult-themed with disturbing, gory, and overall darker vibes. As an Undernaut, you explore deeper and deeper into these dungeons, acquiring loot, battling abominations, and using certain items to actually manipulate the dungeon's layout. You can make doors on special walls to create shortcuts or new routes, plop down ladders to go up or down levels, or construct other things that will let you spelunk further. Once you find yourself in combat, which is often, it's a fairly standard turn-based system, but it does have some interesting elements to it. You can toggle between 3 different battle modes that affect the entire team, giving either higher attack power and 0 spell costs, hunker everyone down to reduce all incoming damage, or speed up everyone's turn order, which also rewards you with bonus treasure if you finish a battle while that mode is active. As for your party members, you make them entirely from scratch yourself, picking from a few base classes that each have subclasses you can eventually promote them to. The game is pretty lenient with its class system, letting you swap around your party members to different classes with really no major penalties. Overall, this is one of the most polished traditional dungeon crawlers you'll find out there, and if you have a massive amount of time on your hands and are up for a challenge, Undernauts Labyrinth of Yomi is on PC, Switch, Xbox, and PlayStation. If you missed it when it came out last month and are sitting around right now bored, this definitely provides good old classic dungeon crawling with modernized systems. Rift Wizard is not just soul-crushingly hard, oh no. It takes those leftover crushed up little bits of your soul, blends them down into a fine powder, and makes an otherworldly smoothie flavored by your pitiful failures. For real though, this is a brutal roguelike RPG with staggering depth, hidden behind a fairly simplistic visual aesthetic. The game's bestiary, for example, has shockingly 541 different enemy types filling it out, but your little wizard dude luckily has plenty of tools of his own to try to take it on. There are over 100 spells you can learn, which can also be upgraded in various ways, and a bit over 50 passive skills as well. These can nearly max out your brain capacity, which is always attempting to figure out the best, albeit nearly infinite amount of synergy combinations. If you don't build out a crazy powerful character build quickly, you'll not make it more than a few floors down into these dungeons. Gameplay-wise, I did say roguelike earlier, not roguelite, which means enemies don't move or act until you act, all functioning on an 8-way grid-based movement system. The combat mechanics in Rift Wizard have a big focus on tactically placing different types of area of effect attacks, which are always satisfying when you can string together a big chaining spell or detonate a large clump of enemies. After each of your very high amount of game overs, you'll get to click through a lovely recap of your journey leading right up to when it all completely crumbled. Nice touch. Right now Rift Wizard is just on PC, but let's be honest, this has PC gamer written all over it. This definitely has that addicting, just one more run element to it, and if you value raw character building depth over visual flair, this is one RPG you will joyfully pull your hair out trying to overcome. A game I already covered pretty extensively, and if you have a Nintendo Switch and like challenging RPGs, well, you likely already know about Shin Megami Tensei 5. Or maybe you're getting it soon for the holidays, right? Right, Santa? In case you missed it somehow though, Shin Megami Tensei is the core series that spawned the highly successful Persona spin-off games. SMT is more serious and darker in tone, with a greater focus on fusing and building out the perfect entourage of demons. Don't let the beautiful blue-haired bro fool ya, SMT5 will chew you up and spit you out if you don't meticulously assemble your team. If you're familiar with other SMT games, Persona, or even Tokyo Mirage Sessions, the combat mechanics here are almost entirely reliant on figuring out and exploiting elemental weaknesses. If you do so or land a critical hit, you're rewarded with extra turns that round, but if you miss or are blocked, you lose turns in a similar fashion. This makes it so you can never really fully go on autopilot during most fights, since there's a risk factor to just mashing out your demon's best attacks. This game also has that really addictive gotta catch 'em all element to the demon system, and although yes, I know SMT came before Pokémon's. You can either verbally try to convince new demons to join your team, or create them yourself by conjoining multiples of other demons. You can pass on skills from each one you use, or use demon essences to give certain skills to already made demons, which all makes for some pretty impressive character building depth. Seriously, give Shin Megami Tensei 5 a go if you're looking for a long, challenging JRPG and happen to have one of those Nintendo Switches. I also made 2 advanced gameplay guides for SMT5 that I'm really proud of how they turned out, so go check those out if you decide to boot this up. And last but not least, a game you cannot actually physically beat, Darkest Dungeon 2. That was a cheap early access joke for you, but seriously, the current version jams in a good amount of content. Uprooting much of the town upgrading and dungeon diving aspects of the first game, this opts for slightly more traditional roguelite style runs, as you commandeer a stagecoach along branching road systems. Maybe could have been called Darkest Highway this time around. As you travel along these routes, you'll come across villagers in need that require assistance, interesting moral dilemmas, and of course, many stressful fights to the death. The turn-based combat will be fairly familiar if you played the first game, but this time around, instead of just worrying about your team's health and stress levels, Darkest Dungeon 2 puts a big focus on the shifting relationships between your party members. One moment everything is going fine, and then like they just finished watching John Carpenter's The Thing, all of a sudden none of these fools can be trusted and the backstabbing ensues. Dazed, reeling, about to break his right, Darkest Dungeon 2 is tough as nails and can be acquired right now on just PC. And those were just some of my personal favorite RPGs from this year that require a bit more perseverance and investment from you. To me, that's a key factor in making this genre rewarding, but it's not always completely required. There were also some other solid RPGs from this year that were pretty good that didn't have to completely stomp you into the ground. However, if I'm missing some of your personal favorite RPGs or JRPGs from this year, let me know which ones you dumped the most hours into. As always, this has been Alex, thanks for watching this all the way up to the very end, and I hope to see you stick around on Boomstick Gaming.
That was a piece of cake.